God says, I am sending you love today. Before you read anything else, feel that first. Not as a metaphor. As something real, arriving right now, in this exact moment, while you're reading these words. Stop scrolling. This one is not like the others you've passed today without a second thought. Something made you stop here. That was not random. God says, I know what you have been carrying. I know the love you gave that was never returned the way you deserved. I know the love you have been waiting for, quietly, without telling anyone how long you've actually been waiting. I know the love you lost, and the ache that still shows up sometimes, uninvited, in the middle of an ordinary day. Today, I am sending you love. Not to replace what you lost. To remind you that you were never as unloved as it sometimes felt. You have wondered, more than once, whether you are actually worthy of being loved fully, without conditions, without having to earn it through constant effort. That question has followed you longer than you'd like to admit. Hear this clearly. You were worthy before you accomplished anything. You are worthy now, exactly as you are, unfinished and imperfect and still becoming. God says, love was never meant to be something you chase endlessly, exhausting yourself trying to prove you deserve it. Real love finds you already worthy, and simply chooses to stay. Think about the last time someone made you feel truly seen, not just looked at, but actually seen, understood in a way that required no explanation from you. If that memory feels distant, if it's been longer than you'd like to admit, know that this feeling is available to you again. It has not disappeared from your life permanently. It has simply been waiting for the right conditions to return. You have given love generously to people who did not always give it back in equal measure. That generosity was never wasted, even when it felt unreciprocated. Love given honestly changes the person who gives it, regardless of how it's received. You have become more capable of real love precisely because you kept choosing to offer it, even when it cost you. God says, today I am asking you to receive love as freely as you have always given it. Many people find giving far easier than receiving. If that describes you, notice it gently. Consider what it would mean to let love in without immediately deflecting it, minimizing it, or explaining why you don't quite deserve it. There is a specific person who came to mind the moment you read the word love at the start of this message. Notice who that was. Whether it was someone present in your life right now, or someone from your past you have not fully released, or perhaps simply the idea of a love you have not yet met. Whoever it was, sit with that for a moment before continuing. God says, the love I am sending you today is not conditional on circumstances finally being perfect. It arrives now, in the middle of whatever you are currently facing, whether that is difficulty, uncertainty, or simply the ordinary weight of an unremarkable day. Love does not wait for perfect timing. It meets you exactly where you are. Consider what it would mean to believe, fully, that you are loved right now, not once you lose the weight, not once you get the promotion, not once you fix whatever you believe is broken about yourself. Right now, exactly as you are. That belief changes how a person moves through their entire life, not just their relationships. You have carried guilt over past mistakes, replaying them long after the people involved have moved on. That guilt has quietly convinced you that you need to earn forgiveness before you're allowed to feel loved again. Hear this. Forgiveness was never something you had to earn through suffering. It was offered the moment you were genuinely sorry, and it remains offered, waiting for you to actually accept it instead of continuing to punish yourself indefinitely. God says, love and shame cannot occupy the same space for long. One eventually pushes the other out. Today, choose to let love take up more room than shame has been allowed to occupy for far too long. Think about how you speak to yourself in moments of failure, disappointment, or simple ordinary struggle. Notice whether that internal voice sounds anything like love, or whether it sounds more like judgment dressed up as motivation. Consider what it would mean to speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you deeply love, especially in the moments you feel least deserving of gentleness. There is a kind of love that has nothing to do with romance, the kind offered through friendship, through family, through the quiet presence of people who have shown up for you consistently without asking for anything in return. Consider who those people are in your life right now, and whether you have properly acknowledged what their love has meant to you. Today might be a good day to tell them. God says, I am also sending love to the parts of yourself you have struggled to love on your own. The parts you hide from others. The parts you criticize the moment you're alone with your own thoughts. Those parts are not unlovable. They are simply the parts that have needed love most and received it least, including from you. Consider what it would mean to extend compassion toward the version of yourself who made mistakes you still carry shame over. That version of you did not have the wisdom you have now. They did the best they could with what they knew at the time. They deserve compassion, not continued punishment, for decisions made without the clarity hindsight has since given you. You have wondered whether romantic love is actually available to you, specifically, given everything that has happened in your past relationships. That doubt is understandable, built from real experience. It is not, however, an accurate prediction of what remains possible for you. Past outcomes do not determine future ones with the certainty fear often insists they do. God says, love is coming toward you, whether in a form you recognize immediately or in a form that surprises you entirely. Stay open to both possibilities. Sometimes the love we need arrives looking nothing like what we expected, and we almost miss it because we were watching for a different shape entirely. Consider the walls you have built around your heart, brick by brick, each one placed there for a real reason, usually protection from real pain experienced before. Those walls served you once. Consider, honestly, whether they are still serving you now, or whether they have started keeping out the very love you have been hoping would eventually find its way in. God says, vulnerability is not weakness. It is the specific courage required to let real love in, knowing full well it might not be returned the way you hope. That risk is real. It is also the only path toward the connection you have been quietly longing for. There is no version of real love that arrives without any risk attached to it. Think about a time recently when you held back from expressing love, out of fear it wouldn't be received the way you intended, or out of fear of appearing too vulnerable, too invested, too much. Consider what it would mean to express it anyway, today, in some small way, to someone who matters to you. God says, love multiplies when it is given freely, without keeping score of what you expect in return. Keeping score, even quietly, even unconsciously, changes the nature of what you're offering. Consider whether you have been giving love freely, or giving it while quietly tracking whether it's being matched. There is a difference between loving someone and being attached to a specific outcome with them. Real love can exist even alongside uncertainty about the future. Attachment to outcome often creates anxiety that has little to do with love itself and more to do with fear of losing something you have decided you cannot live without. God says, today I am sending you the reminder that you are not too much, and you are not too little. You do not need to shrink yourself to be loved, and you do not need to inflate yourself to be worthy of it. You are simply enough, exactly as you already are, right now, reading these words. Consider what love has taught you so far in your life, even the love that ended painfully, even the love that disappointed you. Every experience of love, whether it lasted or not, added something to your capacity to love again, more wisely, more clearly, with better discernment than you had before it happened. God says, grief over lost love and openness to new love are not opposites. You are allowed to still be healing from something that ended while also remaining open to what is beginning. Healing does not require you to close yourself off entirely until the process is finished. It can happen alongside continued openness, imperfectly, at your own pace. Think about the love you received as a child, and whether it shaped, in ways you may not have fully examined, how you expect to be loved as an adult. Some patterns learned early continue operating long after they stop serving you. Consider, gently, whether any of those early patterns are still shaping choices that no longer fit who you have become. God says, I am sending you patience today, alongside the love, because love without patience often becomes anxious, grasping, afraid of losing what it has only just found. Patience allows love to grow at its own pace, rather than being rushed toward a certainty that real connection was never going to offer immediately anyway. Consider what you have been afraid to ask for in your relationships, romantic or otherwise, out of fear that asking would somehow reveal you as needy or difficult. Needs, clearly stated, are not a burden on the people who genuinely love you. They are simply information that helps love actually reach you the way you need it to. God says, today's blessing is simple. You are loved. Not hypothetically. Not conditionally. Right now, in this exact moment, exactly as you are. Let that truth settle into you slowly, the way warmth settles into cold hands held near a fire. If this message reached you today, believe that its timing was not accidental. Comment below if you feel this love reaching you right now. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded they are loved today. Thank you for staying until this point, and for letting these words actually land instead of scrolling past them the way you almost did. There is more still to say, because love this real rarely fits into a message this short. God says, consider the love you have watched other people receive, the kind that looked effortless from the outside, and consider whether comparing your own experience of love to theirs has quietly convinced you that something is wrong with your capacity to receive it. Nothing is wrong with you. Every love story unfolds differently, at a different pace, through different obstacles, and comparing yours to someone else's has never once accurately predicted how your own story ends. Think about the specific moments in your life when you felt most genuinely loved, not necessarily the grand romantic gestures, but the small, quiet moments. Someone remembering a detail you mentioned once in passing. Someone showing up during a difficult week without being asked. Someone simply staying present during a conversation instead of rushing to fix or dismiss what you were feeling. Real love tends to live more in those small moments than in anything dramatic or performed. God says, I am sending you the reminder that you do not need to perform a version of yourself to be loved. The mask you sometimes wear, the version edited for approval, the version that hides uncertainty behind confidence and hides pain behind humor, that version is exhausting to maintain, and it is not actually the version capable of receiving real love. Real love reaches the person underneath the mask, and today, I am inviting you to let that person be seen a little more. Consider what it costs you to keep certain parts of yourself hidden from the people closest to you, out of fear that full honesty might change how they see you. Sometimes that fear is protecting you appropriately. More often, it is simply protecting an old wound that has not yet learned it is safe to be fully known. God says, love does not require you to be constantly impressive, constantly achieving, constantly proving your value through output and accomplishment. You are loved on your unproductive days just as much as your most impressive ones. That belief, if you can actually hold it, changes how much pressure you carry through an ordinary week. Think about how you would treat a close friend who came to you exhausted, discouraged, and uncertain about their own worth. You would likely offer them patience, reassurance, and gentleness without hesitation. Consider offering that same treatment to yourself today, especially in the moments you feel least deserving of it. God says, today's blessing extends beyond romantic love, into every form love takes in a life. The love of friendship, built slowly over years of showing up for each other through both easy and difficult seasons. The love of family, complicated as it often is, carrying both comfort and old wounds simultaneously. The love of community, found in shared purpose with people who may not know you deeply but still show up when it matters. All of these forms of love are being sent toward you today, in whatever form you most need to receive them right now. Consider the love you have for yourself, separate from how others love you. That love matters more than most people realize, because it shapes how much love from others you are actually able to receive and hold on to. A person who struggles to love themselves often unconsciously pushes away the very love they are hoping to find, unable to fully believe they deserve to keep it. God says, self-love is not selfishness. It is the foundation that makes every other form of love sustainable. Without it, love from others tends to feel temporary, conditional, at risk of disappearing the moment you make a mistake. With it, love from others can finally land somewhere stable enough to actually stay. Think about one small way you could practice loving yourself today, not through indulgence necessarily, but through genuine care. Rest when you're tired instead of pushing through out of guilt. Speak to yourself gently after a mistake instead of spiraling into harsh self-criticism. Set a boundary you have been avoiding out of fear of disappointing someone. Small acts like these build self-love more reliably than any single grand gesture ever could. God says, I am sending you courage today, alongside the love, because loving fully requires courage that many people underestimate. The courage to be vulnerable. The courage to trust again after being hurt. The courage to hope for something good after experiencing something painful. That courage is available to you right now, even if it doesn't feel like it in this exact moment. Consider the relationships in your life that have quietly taught you what love should not look like, through pain, through disappointment, through patterns you eventually recognized as unhealthy. Those relationships, painful as they were, sharpened your understanding of what real love actually requires. Nothing you experienced there was entirely wasted, even though it hurt more than it should have. God says, today I am also sending healing alongside the love, specifically for whatever wound love has left in you that has not yet fully closed. Some wounds heal quickly. Others take longer, resurfacing occasionally even after you thought they had fully closed. Both are normal. Healing is rarely a straight line, and setbacks along the way do not mean the healing failed. They simply mean it is still in progress. Think about what forgiveness would look like for the person who hurt you most deeply in matters of love. Forgiveness here does not mean reconciliation, and it does not mean minimizing what happened. It simply means releasing some of the weight that continuing to carry resentment places specifically on you, the one still carrying it, long after the other person may have moved on entirely. God says, love is patient with your healing process. It does not require you to arrive fully repaired before you're allowed to receive it. It meets you exactly where you are, wounds and all, and grows alongside your healing rather than waiting for it to complete first. Consider what it would mean to stop measuring your worthiness for love against an impossible standard of having everything figured out first. No one has everything figured out. The people who seem to have found lasting love were not more finished or more healed than you are right now. They simply chose to remain open despite their own unfinished healing, and let love meet them in the middle of it. God says, today's blessing includes patience for the parts of your story that have not yet resolved. The relationship that is still uncertain. The love you are still waiting to find. The connection you are still working to repair. All of it is unfolding, even in the parts that currently feel stuck or stagnant. Trust the process, even when you cannot yet see where it leads. Think about what you would tell someone else standing exactly where you are standing right now, uncertain about love, carrying old wounds, hoping for something better than what has come before. You would likely offer them encouragement, patience, and genuine belief that good things are still possible for them. Offer yourself that same encouragement today. God says, I am sending you love, and alongside it, permission. Permission to hope again after disappointment. Permission to trust again after betrayal. Permission to want more than what has felt available to you so far. None of that permission was ever anyone else's to grant. It was always yours, simply waiting for you to claim it. If this message reached you today, trust that it arrived exactly when you needed to hear it. Comment below the word love if you feel this blessing landing in your life right now. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that they are loved today, especially if it has been a difficult season for them. Thank you for staying until this point. There is one more layer to this blessing, and it may be the part that matters most going forward. Love, once received, is meant to move through you, not simply be kept. Consider who in your life could use exactly the kind of love you have just been reminded you carry. Consider reaching toward them today, in some small, genuine way, rather than keeping this blessing entirely for yourself. God says, the love I send is never meant to stop with the person who first receives it. It is meant to travel, passed forward through kindness, through patience, through the small daily choices that either build people up or wear them down. Today, choose to be someone's evidence that love is still real, still present, still worth believing in. Think about someone who has been quietly struggling, someone who has not asked for help directly but who you have sensed needs it anyway. Consider reaching out to them today, not with advice, not with solutions, simply with presence. Sometimes the most loving thing available is simply letting someone know they are not facing their difficulty entirely alone. God says, love shown through consistency matters more than love shown through occasional grand gestures. Consider what small, repeated act of love you could commit to offering someone in your life, not once, but regularly, over time. A daily check-in. A weekly call. A standing invitation to talk whenever they need to. Consistency, more than intensity, is what makes people actually feel secure in being loved. Consider the love you have received throughout your life that you may have taken for granted, assuming it would always simply be there without needing acknowledgement. The parent who showed up quietly, without fanfare, year after year. The friend who never made a big deal of their loyalty but never once wavered from it. Consider expressing gratitude for that love today, directly, in words, rather than assuming it has already been understood. God says, gratitude expressed directly changes relationships in ways that gratitude merely felt internally never does. The people who love you cannot read your mind. They benefit from hearing, plainly, that their love has mattered to you. Consider who deserves to hear that from you today. Think about the love you have withheld out of pride, out of fear of appearing vulnerable, out of old patterns that taught you emotional restraint was safer than emotional openness. Consider what it would mean to set that restraint down, at least partially, with someone who has already proven themselves safe to be open with. God says, "Today I am sending you the specific reminder that love expressed is rarely regretted, while love withheld out of fear often becomes a source of quiet regret later, once opportunities to express it have passed." Do not wait for a perfect moment to tell someone you love them. The imperfect moment, right now, is usually good enough. Consider what legacy of love you want to leave behind in the lives of the people closest to you. Not a legacy built through wealth or achievement, but through how consistently you made people feel valued, heard, and genuinely cared for during the time you shared with them. That legacy is being built right now, through today's small choices, not through some future moment you're still waiting to arrive. God says, "Love is also patient with mistakes made in its name." You will not always express love perfectly. You will misstep, misunderstand, occasionally hurt people you never meant to hurt. That imperfection does not disqualify you from being a genuinely loving person. It simply makes you human, still learning, still growing in your capacity to love well. Think about a mistake you made in a relationship that still weighs on you, a moment you wish you could take back or handle differently. Consider offering yourself the same grace you would offer someone else who made a similar mistake with good intentions but imperfect execution. You are allowed to have gotten it wrong sometimes while still being someone genuinely capable of real love. God says, "Today's blessing also includes release, specifically release from relationships or connections that have run their course but that you have been holding on to out of fear, obligation, or simple difficulty letting go." Not every love is meant to last forever. Some loves serve their purpose fully within a defined season, and holding on to them past that season can prevent new love from having room to arrive. Consider, honestly, whether there is a relationship in your life that has already run its natural course, one you have been maintaining more out of habit or guilt than genuine ongoing connection. Releasing it, gently and with gratitude for what it once offered, is not a betrayal of the love it once contained. It is simply honoring that love's actual lifespan rather than forcing it to continue past its natural end. God says, "Love and loss are more closely connected than most people are comfortable admitting." Every love you have ever experienced eventually changes form, whether through distance, through disagreement, through the simple passage of time altering what a relationship once was. That change does not erase the love that existed. It simply means love, like everything else, is not static. It evolves, and sometimes that evolution includes an ending. Think about a love you have lost that still shapes how you move through the world today, even though the relationship itself has ended. Consider honoring that love's lasting impact, rather than only grieving its absence. Both can exist together, gratitude for what it gave you and grief for its ending, held simultaneously without contradiction. God says, "Today I am sending you the reminder that your capacity to love again has not been diminished by past losses, no matter how significant they were." Grief changes a person, but it does not permanently close the door to future love, unless you allow it to. That door remains open, waiting for you to walk through it again whenever you're ready. Consider what readiness for new love would actually look like for you right now, honestly assessed rather than measured against some arbitrary timeline others have suggested you should follow. There is no universal schedule for when someone should be ready to love again after loss. Your own timeline, whatever it turns out to be, deserves respect rather than pressure to move faster than feels genuine. God says, love blessed today includes patience for your own particular pace, whatever that pace turns out to be. Some people heal and open again quickly. Others take considerably longer, and both paths are valid, shaped by different histories, different depths of loss, different personal capacities for processing pain. Do not judge your pace against anyone else's. Think about what you have learned about yourself through every experience of love you have had so far, whether it lasted or ended, whether it felt good or painful in hindsight. Each experience taught you something about what you need, what you will not tolerate, and what genuine connection actually requires from both people involved. That accumulated wisdom is valuable, even the parts learned through difficulty. God says, today's blessing is complete when you allow yourself to actually receive it, not simply read about it and move on unchanged. Consider taking a moment right now, before continuing with your day, to actually feel the love being described here, rather than only intellectually acknowledging it. Feeling it fully is what allows it to actually change something in you. If this message reached you today, believe that its timing mattered. Comment the word blessed below if you feel this love reaching you right now. Share this message with someone who needs to feel love today, especially someone going through a season that has made love feel distant or uncertain. Thank you for staying until this point, and for allowing these words the chance to actually land. There is a final layer to today's blessing, one that ties everything together before this message closes. Love, in its fullest form, is not a single feeling but a series of daily choices, repeated over time, that together build something lasting. Consider what choice, made today, would move you closer to the kind of love you have been hoping for, whether that is love for yourself, love for someone already in your life, or openness to love not yet arrived. God says, I am sending you clarity alongside the love, so that you can recognize it clearly when it arrives, in whatever form it takes. Sometimes love arrives quietly, through consistency rather than intensity. Sometimes it arrives through a person who does not match the picture you had imagined but who fits you in ways the picture never could have predicted. Stay open to both possibilities, rather than narrowing your expectations to a single imagined version. Think about what has kept you from fully believing you are lovable, exactly as you are, without needing to change fundamental parts of yourself first. Trace that belief back to its origin if you can. Often it began somewhere specific, a particular rejection, a particular comparison, a particular moment when someone's limited capacity for love was mistaken for evidence about your own worth. That origin point deserves to be examined honestly, and then released. God says, the belief that you are somehow harder to love than other people is rarely based on accurate evidence. It is usually based on a handful of painful experiences that got generalized into a permanent conclusion about your worth. Consider revisiting that conclusion today, with the more complete evidence you actually have access to now, rather than the limited, painful evidence that originally shaped it. Consider the people who have loved you well throughout your life, even briefly, even imperfectly. Their love is evidence too, evidence that contradicts the belief that you are somehow difficult to love. Weigh that evidence fairly, rather than letting a smaller number of painful experiences outweigh a larger number of loving ones. God says, today I am sending you the reminder that love is not scarce. You have not used up your allotment of it through past disappointments. There is no limited supply that you have exhausted through the relationships that did not work out. Love remains as available to you now as it has ever been, waiting for the right conditions, the right timing, the right openness on your part to actually receive it. Think about what it would mean to release the scarcity mindset around love entirely, the quiet fear that there is only so much good love available and that you may have already missed your share of it. That fear, common as it is, does not reflect how love actually works. It continues to be created, continues to be available, continues to find its way toward people who remain open to it, regardless of how much has already passed them by. God says, consider what abundance in love would actually look like for you, not just romantically, but across every relationship in your life. Abundance does not mean constant intensity or constant declarations. It often looks quieter than that, showing up as consistent care, mutual respect, and the simple, steady presence of people who choose you repeatedly, in small ways, over time. Think about the love you want to build going forward, described specifically rather than left vague. What does it feel like day to day? How does it handle disagreement? How does it show up during difficult seasons, not just easy ones? Having a specific, honest picture of what you're actually building toward makes it considerably easier to recognize when the real thing finally arrives. God says, today's blessing asks one thing of you in return, not as an obligation, but as an invitation. Extend a little more love today than you might have otherwise, toward yourself, toward someone you care about, toward a stranger who could use unexpected kindness. Love multiplies fastest when it is put into motion rather than simply held onto privately. Consider one small act of love you could offer today, right now, before this feeling fades back into the ordinary business of your day. A message sent to someone you've been meaning to reach out to. A kind word offered to someone who seems to be having a difficult day. A moment of genuine patience extended to yourself instead of the usual harsh self-criticism. Small acts like these are how blessings actually take root in a life, rather than remaining abstract ideas read once and then forgotten. God says, I am sending you love today, and I am asking you to let it move through you, out into the world, touching whoever is fortunate enough to be near you today. That is how blessings actually work. They are not meant to end with the person who first receives them. They are meant to travel, carried forward by every person willing to pass them along. If this message reached you today, believe that its timing was intentional, arriving exactly when you needed to be reminded that you are loved, fully, without condition, right now. Comment the word blessed below if you feel this love landing in your life today. Share this message with someone who could use exactly this reminder right now, especially if love has felt distant or uncertain for them lately. Thank you for staying until this final line, and for letting these words do more than simply pass through you unnoticed. You are loved. Today, and every day after this one. Carry that truth with you, and let it change how you move through the rest of your life. Before this message truly ends, consider one more thing. Love is not only something that happens to you. It is also something you actively practice, day after day, in ways both small and significant. The love you are hoping to receive is often built in part by the love you consistently choose to give, to yourself and to others, regardless of whether it is immediately returned in equal measure. God says, practice patience today with someone who tests it. Practice gentleness today with yourself in a moment you would normally criticize yourself harshly. Practice presence today with someone who simply needs to be heard, without you rushing to offer solutions they never actually asked for. These small practices, repeated consistently, are what actually build a life full of real love, more reliably than waiting passively for love to simply arrive on its own. Think about the relationships in your life that have felt effortful lately, requiring more patience than usual, more grace than feels natural to offer right now. Consider whether those relationships are worth the extra effort, and if they are, consider offering that effort today, even when it feels difficult. Love that requires effort during hard seasons is not lesser love. It is often the love that ends up mattering most, precisely because it was chosen deliberately rather than simply felt effortlessly. God says, "I am sending you strength alongside the love, specifically for the relationships that currently require more from you than usual. Strength to remain patient. Strength to communicate honestly instead of withdrawing. Strength to extend grace even when you're tired, even when it would be easier to simply give up on the effort entirely." Consider what it would mean to approach today with a posture of love rather than a posture of self-protection. Self-protection has its place, especially after real hurt. But held too tightly, for too long, it can quietly prevent the very connection you are hoping to eventually experience. Consider loosening that posture, just slightly, just for today, and notice what becomes possible when you do. God says, today's blessing is not meant to erase the real difficulty you may still be facing in matters of love, whether that is loneliness, heartbreak, uncertainty, or simply the ordinary challenge of loving well in an imperfect world. It is meant to remind you that none of that difficulty is permanent, and none of it disqualifies you from the real, lasting love still available to you, in whatever form it is meant to take. Think about what you would say to your future self, a version of you who has found the love you're currently hoping for, looking back at this exact moment, this exact message, this exact day. What would that future version want you to know right now, in the middle of the waiting, the hoping, the occasional doubt? Consider that their message to you would likely be simple. Keep going. It is coming. You are already becoming who you need to be to receive it fully. God says, that is the truth I am sending you today, alongside the love itself. Keep going. It is coming. You are already becoming who you need to be to receive it fully, one honest day at a time. If this message reached you today, believe it arrived exactly when you needed it. Comment the word blessed below if this love has reached you. Share it with someone who needs the same reminder today. Thank you for staying until this very last line, and for letting love, real love, actually find its way to you today. One final thought before you go. Take a moment right now, before closing this and returning to the rest of your day, to place a hand over your heart. Feel it beating, steady, alive, still capable of loving and being loved despite everything it has already survived. Say quietly, to yourself, I am loved. Say it even if it feels unfamiliar. Say it especially if it feels unfamiliar, because that unfamiliarity is exactly what today's blessing is here to gently change. God says, this love does not run out. It is not limited to today alone. It will still be here tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day you need reminding that you are not walking through this life unloved, regardless of how it sometimes feels in the quiet, difficult moments. Return to these words whenever you need to. They will still be true. Archangel Michael says, carry this blessing gently into the rest of your day. Let it soften something that has felt hard lately. Let it open something that has felt closed. And let it remind you, simply and clearly, that love, real and lasting, is not something you have to chase forever. Sometimes it is already here, waiting patiently for you to finally notice it and let it in. You are loved. That is the whole message, said in every way it needed to be said today. Carry it well. God says, before you go, one last reminder. Whatever you were feeling when you first opened this message, whatever ache or hope or quiet question brought you here today, know that it did not go unanswered. Love met you exactly where you were, and it will keep meeting you there, again and again, for as long as you remain willing to receive it. Walk forward today a little lighter than you walked into this message. That lightness is the blessing, already working, already changing something in you, quietly, gently, exactly as it was always meant to. Archangel Michael says, that is all for today. Rest in what you have received. It was real, and it is yours to keep. Consider, one final time, saying it out loud, quietly, to yourself. I am loved. Let those 3 words be the last thing you carry from this message, more than any single sentence written before them. They are enough, on their own, to change the shape of your day, and maybe more than just today. God says, this blessing does not end here. It continues, quietly, in every small choice you make for the rest of today, and every day after this one. Carry it forward, and let it keep working in you long after these words are gone.